Hello, guys. Welcome to our podcast. Today, we are going to talk about the automation tools. Hey, Kuzzat. So, what do you think if we talk about the automation tools today?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I've been, for all the legacy, old, outdated tools, I'm pretty good at it. For the new ones, you're good at it. So we can kind of compare to old one and new one
Yeah, that
and
sounds
see how
really
it
good.
works.
Yeah. So, you worked as an SDET in the past, right?
Yeah.
How many years ago was that?
12 to 15, I guess. And
12 to
yeah,
15
15, I
years.
quit my job. I started CYDEO, but from 12 to 15, which is like 3-4 years up approximately.
So, back in 2012,
Yeah.
you started working as an automation engineer.
Yeah.
What was the automation tool that you were using back then?
In that time, I feel like 90% of the market was manual testers. When I get into automation, people literally were doing manual testing and the automation was a new thing. People like, hey, automation can automate thousands of test cases, there's hours of repetitive tasks. And we had to explain people the benefit of automation. Can you imagine that? Now you don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Directly, they're just looking
Everybody knows what automation is.
yeah, but back then we have to educate people. Can you imagine we have to educate people on agile Scrum methodology, such a big thing back then? Anyway, I think it's all tech evolution
Yes.
goes that way. So because when I was in the market, most people, I would say QA people, they were doing manual testing, which I believe today is still very important, especially when AI taking over lots of responsibility from testers. And there were manual testers. So I've learned something called QTP, Quick Test Professional. Back then it was owned by Hewlett Packard, HP. It was HP licensed tool. It was bloody expensive.
Yes.
And I had to learn VB Script, which is scripting language, Visual Basic. The reason it's Visual Basic is very visual, very basic. So despite it was like an easy tool to learn, it was just like literally UI automation tool.
Yes.
I got a job for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And those are the tools that I use. And open source was not that popular at that time.
So you mean the QTP was not open source?
No, QTP was bloody expensive. Companies have to pay.
Oh, you had to buy the license in order to be able to use it?
Per seat.
Per seat?
Per seat. Wow. It was so expensive. If you were a company, you have to pay, I don't know, millions of dollars. If you want 10, 20, 30 user license, you have to negotiate with HP. And that was an expensive tool. One of the problems is because it's a closed source tool, people want to learn automation back then. You can't get access. You have 30 days trial period. And after 30 days, you have to open a new account. I think it's just such a self-destructive way because when you make your system closed source, people cannot use it. Most people are left out.
Yes.
And you don't have enough people who knows this tool.
Yes, you will not have enough users.
Yeah, over time, even though you buy the tool, there's no people, very few can use that tool. That was one of the disadvantage. And it was just dumb tool sometimes. It would crash and it didn't have autosave. And one day I was literally into like object recognition problem. I was coding for 5-6 hours. I lost my mind. And QTP crashed and it didn't save. Can you imagine the feeling as someone writing that code for the past 6 hours?
That's horrible.
Yeah. I'm glad that they're out of business now. I think they're out of business. Later on, they became unified functional testing. Now I believe that HP sold out that to a different company. Still QTP, UFT still exists, but I don't think anyone, who would use it when you have open source tool like Selenium?
Plus, open source tools are much more better, right?
Yeah, much better. Most importantly, can you imagine? It is free and it's better. Who the hell wants to use now less competent tool, more complicated tool, less efficient tool, and expensive? It's super, I don't know why they still exist. And I do have some experience with some other tools called WorkSoft Certify. That was the worst automation tool I've ever used in my life.
Was it also closed sourced or?
It was licensed tool. They call it WorkSoft. And I used to say, hey, WorkSoft makes you work very hard because this tool is so stupid. One simple test case, you have to spend hours and hours to fix it. Your job is fixing to make WorkSoft Certify actually work. Most of your energy goes that way. The worst tool, if anyone listen to me, stay the hell away from that tool. And Test Complete was also one of the tools, but I'm not sure. I don't have direct experience, but still I feel when you have open source tool like Selenium and Playwright, if you want to destroy your software development project, you should go for closed source licensed tool, pay for it, and get less result.
Okay. Ever since you started working as an automation tester back in 2012, you only worked with the closed source automation tools, or was there any other tools that are open source that you actually worked on?
No, I never had experience with an open source tool. Once we started CYDEO, we started with QTP, then we heard like Selenium was taking off. So we switched to Selenium and we started teaching.
So CYDEO was first started with the QTP as the automation tool.
First 3 batches, we taught QTP. In the middle of the 3rd batch, we decided, it was around like 40 students, and I convinced them. I said, hey guys, I know that you were learning VB script and QTP, but I genuinely believe if you do Java and Selenium, it's going to be good for your career. This was back then, probably 2016.
How popular was Selenium back then when you first
It was
started
taking
the
off. It was taking off today. I can't compare with AI, but AI is taking off today. It was just like when something's taking off, you can see the clear trend.
Okay.
There's more demand, there's more jobs, and there's more opportunities, and it's more elite because when you compare, still I think today is the same thing. When you work in tech environment, your technical competency is how elite you are. And the more technical you are, the more respect you see and the more pay you get. I'm also surprised even today, people believed in us. They're like, okay, though we studied QTP for 3 months, now we'll have to restudy and learn Java and Selenium. All of them found a job. Okay. All of them.
I want to circle back to that part one more time. So first you started with the QTP. When you first started CYDEO, you started with the QTP was the automation tool that you were using. And then later on you decided to go with Selenium because you thought that it was taking off.
Yeah.
How did you know that it was taking off? It wasn't just a hype and it was actually taking off for real.
As a small company, you can't hire McKinsey analysts to do a market research for $3 million. Anyway, when they do research, it's wrong. In 1990s, they told AT&T stay away from cell phone business because they think the cell phone business is like no business. So even big companies, when they do research, it's just most of the time it doesn't work out. It's simple, dumb, straightforward thing. We just went to Indeed, Dice, and we counted how many SDET jobs available, how many of them were asking for Java, Selenium, or Selenium itself. Then we compared the salary opportunities. And always we see the trend of there were more Selenium jobs and the salary were higher. And I was like, okay, this is the right thing to do with our students. Let's do the right thing. That's why in the middle of the cohort, we had to convince them to switch from QTP to Selenium. In the beginning, few people were like, oh, we wasted our time. Once they went to market, they're like, thank you, Kuzzat. We did the right thing.
So which means you made the best decision to switch from QTP to
Selenium. It was
Selenium.
not sophisticated analysis. It was literally, we went to Dice Indeed and checked the trend. That's it.
Okay. So when you made that decision to switch from QTP to Selenium, what made you to choose to go with Java? Because Selenium, this open source, is supported by many programming languages, right? Python, C#, C++, Java, all of those languages, including JavaScript as well. What was the reason that you decided to go with Java, since Java is a more difficult language than C#, Python, etc.?
In my business career, I've seen a lot of paralysis due to analysis. Overanalyzing, sometimes it becomes very unproductive. So that's why if you don't want to be paralyzed by analyzing too much, the other strategy, I call it caveman strategy. It's like very straightforward, have a simple decision-making process. My thought process was, I've heard Java was the most used language back then, still today. And most infrastructure, government infrastructure, IT infrastructure was built on Java. And I felt like Java was almost English of software development. How in business, English is so important, whether you're in France or in Japan, like international business languages like English. I was like, okay, Java is that language, number one. Number two is we want to give more competitive advantage for our students. If normally for QA engineers, it doesn't require to know Java object-oriented programming back then. My thought was if people were like a National Guard competing and I want to make our students Navy SEAL, means that not Navy SEAL itself, but giving them a hard time, teaching them the skills that are all qualify for the positions. So when they actually go to market, they have competitive advantage.
That's they're all qualified.
Yeah, they're all qualified. And one of other reason is I believe when companies already developing their application using Java, probably they're going to have software development team with Java. And if you keep your language consistent, I don't know whether it's the thing or not. That was my thought process. If you're developing your application with Java and your test automation framework is also Java, I believe that it's going to increase the collaboration between SDET and the development team or Java developers or developers themselves. I thought that was a good thing to do. I think that worked out as a common sense. And what else? I just felt like once they crack one object-oriented programming language, learning next one was easier. So I have this analogy of if your first driver license is commercial driver license, CDL, before driving Toyota Corolla, you just drive how to operate 18-wheelers, for example, big truck. Once you learn truck and school bus, learning smaller cars, vans, or it's just going to be, you don't have to learn so easy because the first one was difficult. So I thought because Java is more difficult for entry-level people to learn, once they master it, learning JavaScript is going to be much easier. Learning Python is going to be much easier. So that was also another thought process.
I 100% agree with that because once you learn Java, learning programming languages like Python, JavaScript, C# will be much more easier for you. You probably need 1 week to learn that language, but not vice versa. For example, let's say you started to learn with JavaScript or Python, and then when you want to learn Java, it will be a lot more difficult for you. You will probably spend a couple months still, like 1.5 months or 2 months. If your first language is Python, after completing Python, what if the company requires you to know Java? Well, in that case, you will at least spend a month or two learn the basics of Java. But if your language is Java, even if the company requires you to know Python, within 1 week, you will be good at Python if you just dedicate 1 week only.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. When people break into tech or they're working as a professional, you will have less time to learn because you're working, number one. Number two, tech salaries generally is just higher. Even today, it's a little bit downturn for the tech market, just like what happened in dot-com bubble, what happened in 2008 financial recessions. When market is generally slow, I got it. But generally, they get higher pay and means that they're more comfortable. If you're making $100,000, $120,000, nobody's chasing you. You have less psychological pressure to learn even more. So because comfort, in the comfort zone. So you're getting paid well and you're working in a professional environment. So you will have less motivation and less time to learn.
Right.
So let's say you start a project and you know Java and you want to have to learn JavaScript or Python. You don't want to spend 2 months, 3 months to do that. You want to spend like 1 or 2 weeks to brush up, just learn the syntax and comparison, and now get started work. I think it makes you look good as well. Can you imagine your tech lead, your software development lead said you have to learn JavaScript? And you said you need 3 months. It's like, why did I hire you, man? Why do I pay you $120,000? So I think that is also advantage of learning Java as well.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So now let's come back to you. I know QTP, whatever. It's like now nobody uses it. Now you've been teaching Java and Selenium for past 5-6 years.
Yes.
Now this new tool is coming. I think it's like storming the market all over the world. Playwright. And you've been teaching, I think, approximately 1,000 students already, Playwright with the upskill training. I kind of remember because QTP or UFT was extremely expensive and it was less competent tool. And versus Selenium was open source, it was free. They have a large community to make it really well. That's why it took off because it's free. And closed source versus open source win the game. Now, Playwright is open source.
Yes.
And Selenium is open source. I mean, it's open source to open source now. Why Playwright has advantage against Selenium? Why people are now keep asking more Playwright these days?
Great question. But I would like to talk about this Playwright at the very end because to know the Playwright, how beneficial, how useful it is, first you also need to know little history of other automation tools like Protractor, Cypress. So Selenium was the automation tool that dethroned the QTP that you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Selenium is not designed for end-to-end testing, this automation tool. Back then, first automation tool that I was teaching for end-to-end testing was Protractor. It was called Protractor. JavaScript was the native language of Protractor, that automation tool. We were teaching Protractor back then, and then after a couple months later, Protractor was outdated. You could no longer download and use it. Basically, it was dead.
Why?
I guess it also had lots of issues. Even though it was pretty fast and stuff, it has like complex configurations and some other weight issues, things like that. After Protractor's dead, then Cypress came along. Okay, Cypress back then was also one of the popular automation. It still is, but it's not as popular as Selenium and Playwright is right now, nowadays. I think one of the main reasons that the Cypress is not as popular as Playwright or Selenium right now is because it is very limited. It's only supported with JavaScript, which means if you know other programming languages such as Java or Python or Ruby, C#, etc., you cannot use a Cypress with, Cypress is not supported. Cypress, it is end-to-end testing tool, yes, which Selenium isn't. Cypress was able to help us to test the entire flow of the application from start to finish. That's what end-to-end testing is. And it's also capable of doing both UI testing as well as backend.
So when you say end-to-end testing, it means that it
from
tests
start to the finish of the application, yes.
And the front end and the back end as well.
Yeah.
Front end is UI part, whatever you see in the browser.
Absolutely.
Back end is the database part, I guess.
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
API, things like that.
Yeah. So Cypress was getting more popular for end-to-end testing back then since it was a lot more faster. But due to the limits of since it's only supported with JavaScript, it cannot be supported with any other language. And you cannot develop Cypress to be supported on other programming language either. So now, since due to this disadvantage of Cypress, I think after Playwright became open source back in 2012, Playwright is basically dethroning Cypress and any other automation tools. The number one reason is because Playwright, it's also an end-to-end testing tool. It is much more simpler compared to Selenium or Cypress or Projector. It is end-to-end testing tool, pretty simple. And most importantly, it is the fastest automation tool in the world right now.
Fastest,
yes.
In the world.
Yes. Think about it. It is simple, it is fastest, and it is easy to configure. No other automation tool in the past, they had all the three advantages. But Playwright is the first one that has all those three advantages.
When you talk about fast, I used to run regression before the release. I remember we ran regression for a week. Every day, I would say 8, 9, 10 hours, multiple virtual machines.
Yes.
Maybe 2,000-3,000 test cases. And we will have to go through the report. Sometimes it's just failed due to environmental issues. It's not even bug. Even though it's automation, it was not that advanced that time. So we spent weeks to execute test cases. How fast is Playwright compared to what I talk about with QTP or Selenium? How fast it is?
It is 5-6 times faster, at least, yes. Of course, the more test cases that you have, the faster that Playwright will become, the performance will become. For example, if you're just executing one test case on Selenium and Playwright, Selenium, it might take 7-8 seconds. Playwright will complete it in 2-3 seconds. But when you apply it to multiple test cases, for example, in a regression, you have a couple hundred test cases, right? 200-300 test cases. If you run it with Selenium, of course, in order to run it with parallel, you still have to install some other tools like Selenium, Groot, etc. But with the Playwright, you don't need to do any extra installation. It is just one basic configuration, set the parallel to true or false. That's it. And then it's going to run all the tests in multiple different browsers parallelly. And if Selenium was taking 1 hour, Playwright could complete it in 5-10 minutes.
Wow, that is really fast. I would say that means that for the companies, there's lots of competitive advantage for this efficiency. Let's say you have a hotfix.
Yes.
You want to run quick, end-to-end testing. In one case, you have to wait for 1 week for all the regression for executed or a few days.
Yes.
In another side, you have few hours. Developers fix the code and you run end-to-end regression. 3 hours, you can deploy the code. I think companies are going to save a lot of money.
Absolutely. They will save lots of money. Yeah.
That's pretty fast. So I'm just curious when you talk about, I know that when we're teaching Selenium Grid, it's for parallel execution.
Parallel testing, yeah.
How many hours that it takes for average SDET to set up Selenium Grid for parallel testing?
To be able to parallel testing their test cases? Well, in our class, thanks to hyperstructure, the content of the class is delivered through the recording. Since it's a recording, it's much more smoother, faster. So we have about 3-4 hours of recording class for Selenium Grid to be able to set up the parallel testing, parallel execution, etc. But if it is Playwright, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, you can set it up.
So you just say parallel testing true?
That's because Playwright, it comes with its own global configuration. It has its global configuration. In the global configuration, whatever the configuration that you want to set, whether it's the browser or whether it's a parallel execution, as well as number of workers. Number of workers means how many instances of Chrome or Firefox you want to open for your test cases. For example, if you have 200 test cases, if you assign it to 5 workers, you will have 5 Chrome browsers will open. Each browser will take 40 tests. So they execute at the same time. Instead of waiting for 200 test cases to complete, you just need to wait for 40 test cases to complete. That's it.
So can I just have a supercomputer and let's say I have 1,000 test case in my regression and I will have a 1,000 worker because the memory, whatever, the capacity of the computer is so high. Can it just get it scan the entire application in 1 minute then? Is
Yes,
that possible?
there's way to configure that. Yes, usually we ask students to not set more than 5 workers when they configure the Playwright. But when you have secure computer, when you can create multiple virtual environment, it's absolutely doable. Yes.
So technically, you can execute 1,000 test cases in less than 5 minutes.
Yes, you absolutely could. With Playwright, not with Selenium or Cypress, other tools.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes you have hotfix. Let's say you have a production issue and you have to you have to fix in the production. And the reason that we run regression is when you fix something, something else can be broken.
Right.
So now, just because you change the code in there, you don't know rest of the application is working unless you just do another regression test end to end. That means that it gives super capability for the software development team to fix their issue, test their entire regression, or execute entire regression in less than 1 hour of, I don't know, maybe 50 minutes if it's possible. Then they're good to go. Isn't it amazing? I think it's amazing.
It is amazing, I think, yes.
So when I was working back then, even with QTP, we have this like a wait thing. For example, I was working for a fintech company and there were like data table with, it was a mortgage application. So it has lots of parameters and maybe 40, 50 columns and thousands of rows. So to load that, sometimes just like spinning. And for that wait, I have to write like 300-400 lines of code. If this happened then, like it was so time consuming. For Selenium versus Playwright, how is the wait? How much time do you need to write?
Good question. In Selenium, there are lots of weight issues like explicit weight, implicit weight, those weights that you constantly has to implement it in Selenium in your automations. And also Selenium, just like QTP other language, it uses synchronous programming. Synchronous programming means like one block at a time that gets executed. In another word, one test case at a time gets executed, and test cases, they do block each other. So one function gets executed, and then in order for next function get executed, first function has to be completed first. So other function has to wait.
Okay.
That is what synchronous programming is. But Playwright, especially in the JavaScript programming, there is concept called asynchronous programming, which means functions, they do not block each other. They do have their auto-waiting functionality, but they do not block each other, which means 10 functions you could just execute at the same time. So since they do not block each other, the waiting time will be a lot more less. Think about it. Let's say you have 4 functions. Each function takes 10 seconds to execute, right? If you execute it in a synchronous programming, that environment, then it takes 40 seconds for those 4 functions to be completed. But if you apply asynchronous programming, that means 10 seconds, you can complete all those 4. Because those functions, they do not block each other at all. You can say goodbye to the wait issues when you are using Playwright. You don't need to worry about any waiting. It has auto-waiting functionalities, and it also has like auto-scrolling, and each task...
for scroll, oh my God, we had to write lots of code for that.
Yeah, remember in Selenium, whenever we wanted to click some element that is at the bottom of the page or middle of the page, you had to give the exact number of widths and heights to scroll it. But in Playwright, you don't even care about those where the element is located at, because JavaScript, it can communicate with the browser elements directly. JavaScript is the language of web. And Playwright, it allows you to automatically locate that element, automatically scroll to that element, and automatically wait for that element if some time that is needed for the element to be loaded. So all the codes that you were using in Selenium for waiting, scrolling, etc., you don't need it in Playwright.
How much was the problem was that? For example, if you were using Selenium to automate, like wait, scroll, all the stuff, sometimes you solve a problem and that problem was not a big problem for people. So it's not a big pain that you solve. But if you're a test automation engineer using Selenium, how much of the problem you're solving, how much pain people have for scrolling?
Lots of problem you are solving, actually.
So I guess people using, they will understand.
Right. I just want to point out one basic example that I did for comparison of Selenium and Playwright. So one test case, when I did it with Selenium, I had to give the implicit weight as well as explicit weights. And I also had to give the scrolling if needed, etc. If it was taking me like 15 lines of code to complete one test case, in Playwright, it was just 3-4 lines of code. Playwright has functional built-in functions for any automation technique that you need, and since it does not need any explicit waiting or scrolling, so long lines of code can be reduced to a few lines.
So let's say you're a software development team. You have certain items that you have to finish for the sprint or automation test cases you have to automate. One advantage we've been talking about is Playwright is very fast versus Selenium. So execution time there's almost no time in there. There's super competitive advantage versus Selenium. Now, in terms of amount of test cases that you can automate, does it go down to, for example, used to be, let's say, if I have a large regression, I'll have 2, 3, 4 SDET in one team, and they will have to work, and every day they have to complete certain test cases for increasing the automation coverage. Now, because of the efficiency, or you take out all this weight and issues or scroll issues, or for the parallel testing, whereas Selenium, you have to do 4 hours setup, versus in Playwright, you just set the value to true. That is so crazy and funny. How fast for test script generation, for example, how fast it is to automate test cases on Playwright versus Selenium?
So, for example, let's say you completed one Selenium test case, 10 or 15 minutes maybe. Okay. In same amount
to
of
write
time.
Code?
Yeah.
Okay.
In same amount of time, you could complete 3 test cases in Playwright at least.
So test case generation is 3 times faster.
At least 3-4 times faster.
3-4 times faster. Execution time is 5 to 10 times faster.
Yes.
You said 5-60 times. Let's say.
Yeah,
Let's make it
5-6
realistic.
times faster.
So generation is faster. Test script generation is faster. Execution is faster. Setup is faster.
Yes.
And you don't have to deal with wait, scroll, all these issues. It's completely done.
Yes.
I think that's amazing. Why companies are not everybody's using Playwright then?
That's not it yet. There are also one more advantage actually.
What is that?
Yeah. So remember when you were using QTP or Selenium, etc. Yeah, you also have to have applications that are installed on your device, such as Chrome, Firefox, Safari, those type of browsers. You have to have it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be able to test it in a different environment. They do not come with its own automation tool. For example, when you install Selenium, it doesn't come with its own Chrome or Firefox or all those browser applications. But when you install Playwright, yes, it comes with its own browsers. Even if your computer doesn't have Chrome or Firefox or Safari, for example, if you are a Windows user, you don't have Safari, right?
Yeah.
For automation purpose, if you have a Playwright, it comes with its own Safari browser. It comes with its own Firefox as well as Chrome. Even if your computer does not have any of those applications, you can still do the testing you can still do cross-browser testing.
So I just want to clarify this one. So my default browser is Safari. I know your favorite browser is Internet Explorer. So when I use Safari, we'll be surprised. Some banking applications, some genuinely like big companies, they don't work properly on Safari. I was like, where are you testing? Like Safari is pretty much half of the world. Why it's not working? So you have lots of UI issues with Safari as well.
Yes.
In the production environment. So I think cross-browser is very important. But if I am running Playwright on Mac, I don't have to install a virtual machine first. Inside the virtual machine, I will have to have Windows operating system. Inside of Windows, that I will have your favorite browser, Internet Explorer. So that was the way to do it if you run Selenium. But in Safari, in Playwright, you don't have to install different operating system.
Yes.
All the browser comes with it, whether it's from Linux or Windows or Mac, it works everywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
This is good. So when you talk about the parallel execution, let's say you have 1,000 regression test cases. Now you have to run it on Chrome, but if you want to do browser compatibility testing, now you have to run 1,000 test cases on Chrome, on Safari, on Internet Explorer.
Yes.
Does it still exist? I don't think
it's
so.
not.
Yeah,
it's
all the
Edge right now.
Firefox, whatever. So now with Playwright, you can actually do parallel even with the multiple browsers.
Yes, you can do parallel and cross browsing at the same time. So how
That's
you do is
crazy.
there is a global configuration in Playwright project. So you will select the browsers. You can select Chrome, Safari, Firefox. At the same time, you can also set how many instances of each browser application that you need to create. It's a worker. If you set the worker to 3, for example, it opens 3 Chrome windows, 3 Firefox windows, and 3 Safari windows. And all your test cases will be tested on those browsers, divided to 3 workers of each browsers.
Yeah, basically having a little bit of deja vu from 2016, 17s, when Selenium is taking over.
Yeah.
Now I feel like it's going to take time for people to have companies to recognize Playwright actually save them time, money, human resources. There's lots of advantages for that. So they're going to recognize it. Pretty much they're recognizing it right now. That's why lots of people, almost 1,000 people took your training for Playwright. So they're going to start implementing Playwright framework in their companies.
That's correct.
I think that's a good thing. It takes time. The second problem is, I would say for the SDET industry, if it's inside all the QAs, if SDET is one segment, I think we did great work as a CYDEO, because as a company, if you want to hire SDET and you want to use Selenium and nobody can use it, then you just don't have the community.
True.
Like nobody can operate it.
True.
That's going to become a problem. That's why we were developing training lots of SDETs. Now companies can actually have, okay, we have a decent SDET that is very good Java and Selenium, things like that. Let's hire them. That was one thing.
Right.
Now you can have an amazing tool, but you don't have the communities that can use that tool is also a problem. So I think it's going to take time for this community to develop as well. And you're doing part of that job right now. What is the reaction from your students in the market looking for a job, or they're working already in a tech company, in a tech project? What are they saying?
They're saying, yeah, Playwright is getting much more popular every day. And some of the alumni that they joined our Playwright program is because their company was switching from Cypress to Playwright. Both Cypress and Playwright are mainly designed for end-to-end testing. Since Playwright has lots of advantages compared to Cypress, the companies using Cypress, they were switching to Playwright, and students, they joined our program. And when they joined our program, yes, of course, they have Selenium background and they also have used Cypress at their work. It was a lot more easier for them to learn the Playwright. We just offer 9 sessions in total to teach the Playwright to our alumni, whoever has Selenium background. Just like the analogy that you used earlier. For example, if you have truck driving license, you can easily drive the Toyota Corolla, those cars, right? The sedan cars. So Selenium, yes, you can treat it as a truck driving license, and Playwright is, let's say, SUV or sedan. So when you know Selenium, learning Playwright is a lot more easier for you. So students were really excited when they start to learn Playwright. Syntax, codes, everything was much more simpler. Configuration was a lot more easier compared to Selenium, and a lot more faster. It was pretty exciting.
I know is how much of the problem that you solve for the company or software development project in terms of dollar amount and the time.
Yes.
I don't know if you have decent size software application. I just felt like Playwright will save them millions of dollars in terms of, because just think about it, for the companies, what is the highest expenses? Software engineers, they're all 6-figure salary, and you have to pay their tax, all the stuff, insurance. Their hourly rate could come at least $100 an hour. Now, when you're talking about Selenium, could be 1,000 hours of task case development, execution, parallel execution, cross-browser, or even operating system, stuff like that. So it takes so much time, human resources to develop test cases, execute test cases, where Playwright is maybe 3-4 times faster in terms of generating test cases or test automation scripts. At the same time, execution is 5-6 times faster.
Yes.
That means companies are saving millions of dollars. If they're saving millions of dollars, I would say the employees, there will be more demand if they know Playwrights as well, because companies are saving time and money.
Yes, that's also one of the main reasons that our students in the market or Play students, they join the Playwright program, because when you join Playwright program, on top of whatever the automation tools that you have on your resume, you also have Playwright as well as JavaScript, TypeScript, those languages together. So that gives you a huge advantage in market as well. Because when the company sees your resume, even you know Selenium, you know Playwright, you can work with both. That means even if the company is using Cypress or Selenium or any other automation tool, they definitely want to hire you since you have multiple automation tool experience.
I think it's important because they might have from the past few years their legacy framework from Selenium.
Yes.
You can't just trash it.
Selenium has the largest community.
Yeah. So that means that if you're looking for SDET, probably you both having somebody knowing Selenium and Playwright at the same time is important, because first of all, you have to keep executing, maintaining the existing framework with Selenium. At the same time, now you're going to start converting those test cases from Selenium to Playwright until you build your entire Playwright framework with probably 80-90% automation coverage. You're not going to ditch your Selenium framework as well. I think this will take time because people spend years to develop their framework from Selenium as well.
Yes. And this Playwright is relatively new when you compare it with the other automation tools like Selenium. Playwright was first became open source, I think, 2020. But later on...
Only 3 years,
4
4
years.
years.
Yeah. But of course, other new updates and things that were made later on. So it's relatively new. If you compare the actual times of it's being more stable, more updated, etc., it's like 2-3 years only now
Yeah, I
compared to
feel like
Selenium.
in the tech industry, I think in the world in general, there's always this new shiny product, shiny object, and then it has a lifespan. And then there's something always new and more innovative, more efficient comes up, and people move to that. I'm pretty sure 10 years from now, maybe people didn't talk about some other tools. But now I think we're in the transitioning period from companies start recognizing advantages of Playwright against Selenium, and they're transitioning and they're looking for those people. I think this is like a beginning time for that. When 2015, 16, 17, people will start switching from closed source automation tool to open source automation tool like Selenium. Now from open source Selenium to better open source Playwright. I think that's also we're in the transitioning period, I believe.
I think so, yeah. Do you remember what was the main reason that Selenium was able to dethrone QTP? Besides it's free, like open source, what other advantages you think of that the Selenium had?
I would say the biggest disadvantage was it's just too expensive. Why? When you have free tool doing better job, it's just like counterintuitive. QTP is more expensive, less competent.
And slower compared to Selenium as well,
It crashes.
So Selenium had the advantages of it's simpler than QTP and also it's faster than QTP.
And you have larger community.
Larger community, yes.
Yeah.
Now, when you compare Selenium with Playwright, Playwright is faster than Selenium, and Selenium is also complex than Playwright. Configuration is also a lot more complex than Playwright. But what makes Selenium still more popular is because the community is much more larger since it's been around for a long period of time.
Yeah, I would say, but still, I think it's going to take time for companies to switch.
Right.
Yeah, but I would say maybe in 3 to 5 years.
I would say 7-8 years, maybe Playwright will also have large community as large as Selenium is.
Yeah, we will see. But still, I believe when you see the new tool, more innovative, much better, simpler, much easier, taking off, it will have a tipping point. At some point, every company is just like now, everybody's looking for Selenium. They will look for something Playwright that I believe, because out of all these tools we're talking about, you have Protractor, you have what else? Cypress, Selenium. Out of all this tool, looks like right now, Playwright in terms of efficiency, speed, cross-browser, and Playwright has way more advantages. The only thing is it's a new tool.
Yes.
And they have smaller community of people contributing to open source, and smaller community of people are using it. That means that even if I'm a company that I want to switch from Selenium to Playwright, my team members, they don't have the competency for Playwright. I think that's going to be the gap that you will help to close as well, because you're the one teaching those past 1,000 people that I would say for the past few months.
That's true. Yeah. Playwright, as you mentioned, it has smaller community compared to Selenium, but Playwright, it has momentum now. Like the growth is a lot faster than Selenium back then. Maybe Selenium back then, it took also 3-4 years in order to get to the same large community of Playwright that the Playwright has after 2 years. So I think in terms of growth, Playwright is growing faster compared to any other automation tools. The community is getting faster compared to other automation tools. Of course, it still takes some time to get to the level of Selenium in terms of community. Eventually, it will have very large community, yes, but it will still take some time.
So now I used to Google, because Google was organizing information for us. I'm looking for something, so always Google it first. And then Perplexity came along, AI-driven, not search engine, I would say, the answer engine, because I'm looking for answer. I'm not looking for search. The reason I'm looking for particular information. But once I started using Perplexity, I just didn't realize how bad Google is.
Yeah.
I felt like Google is kind of evil to me.
They were literally mousetrapping you, right?
They're mousetrapping me, right? I'm looking for that cheese, which is my answer. They have to hide inside of 18 million different links, and I have to go through it, and I'll accidentally click their ads, sponsor ads as well, because Google will have to generate advertisement. They have to show you the link, show you their advertisement. Now to get my answer, I have to skip through as if I'm avoiding all the mousetrap, get my cheese. I didn't recognize that. They don't give me my answer. I have to spend 1 hour on all these websites trying to figure out what the hell is my answer is. Now, when I search something on Perplexity, I get my answer instantly, right?
Plus the reference links and everything.
Plus reference links. It doesn't hallucinate. It's just like a PhD paper. In PhD paper, everything has a reference for reputable source. Even in Perplexity, they're going to generate you all this sophisticated, amazing report or answer. You ask a question, it says, okay, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It gives you all the resources back to
the exact links that you
link.
needed.
So now, not only it's giving you answer, it is going through the entire internet, indexing it, finding the best answer, putting it together, summarizing it, giving you the extension links or the source link, and give you the answer. Now, why would I use Google ever? I stopped using Google completely, because until you have a better tool to do something, you don't recognize, understand. The old tools were making you suffering. You don't understand the suffer. Do you think when people, I mean, I don't use Selenium. I just want you use Selenium and you use Playwright. Do you think the similar feeling is there when you switch from Selenium to Playwright?
Yes, absolutely. Playwright basically made everything much more simpler and much more convenient. Since you brought it up, the Google and Perplexity, I would like to share one of the experience that I had before. So back in 2020, I also had thoughts of buying a house. And back then I wanted to check out the mortgages, When I go to Google and search for mortgages, I wanted to check the mortgage rate. What is the mortgage rate today? Instead of giving me what the mortgage rate of today is, it was giving me the links of all those mortgage companies. I had to go to like 4th and 5th page from the search result to be able to find a link that had the mortgage rate, It was taking lots of time. And also the first, second links, usually like when you click it, it asks you lots of information, before they actually show you the exact mortgage rates. But now, if you go to Perplexity right now and ask for what is today's mortgage rate, it immediately gives you the exact mortgage rate. And also it gives you the exact link where you can find the charts and everything within a few seconds. So we are also implementing this Perplexity in Playwright, because even in Playwright, you still have like some programming issues, some issue that you need to troubleshoot, So before, when we were teaching Selenium, students were mostly using Google for troubleshooting outside the classes.
For that issue,
yes,
and they will have to go through multiple pages to
yes,
find
exactly,
solution.
yes. And back then, when they were troubleshooting their programming related issues, let's say in average they would spend 45 to 1 hours usually in order to troubleshoot programming issues. But nowadays, for example, in our Playwright program, our searching tool and prompting tool is Perplexity. Students, they utilize Perplexity to troubleshoot any automation problems they have or any programming problems they have outside classes. And this time, they spend around 5 minutes maybe maximum.
So instead 45 minutes.
Yeah, instead of 1 hour, they can spend 5 minutes to troubleshoot the problem. Say how fast, how amazing is that?
So it's like you have a research assistant.
Yes.
As your Perplexity, and you just dump your problem in there, and Perplexity will go through the internet. And plus, it is powered by either ChatGPT or Claude.
Yes.
And it's going to use large language model as well, and to give you the answer. It is like now everybody has an AI assistant to solve their problem. Like I have legal issues I discuss with AI. Yeah. I have finance issue I discuss with AI.
Why don't you discuss with the lawyer that you had in the past?
I mean, their hourly rate is almost $1,000 an hour. So unless it's very, very critical, sophisticated stuff, like some basic, I would say 80% of my problems with legal, like consultation, AI can do better right now. People look at AI as a threat, but the more I use, the more I believe AI is such a empowering, amplifying tool that will amplify human productivity. Imagination. So
yes, you have to embrace it. Yeah.
My life is much, much better with AI. For example, sometimes people have medical condition, right? They have digestive problem, they have gut issues. And before you have to go to doctor, they give you prescription and you have to pay the big pharma and they fix you. They fix you one issue, they give you 7 more issues. Now you go to pay subscription to solve that 7 more issues with big pharma. Now you're their infinite customers.
Yes.
But the thing is, I love how tools like Perplexity or AI tools now we can look for like home remedy, for example, and or this organic stuff. Whoever that you guys think AI is going to take over your job, AI is a tool. It's going to take over your tool. It's going to make your old competencies or skill set or tools outdated.
Yes.
And it's giving you a better tool. It is all up to you to take that tool or not.
Yes.
If your competitor is taking that tool, you're done, man. You can't compete. AI is making my personal life better, my business life better. It's just like making my life better.
Makes you much more
professionally better. Yeah. I'm empowered by AI. So I know we're talking about Playwright here, but at the same time, AI is going to be the big topic everywhere you go. So it's elephant in the room.
It's not just hype, it's here to stay. And you have to know how to utilize it, how to fully utilize it,
When you talk about Playwright, you're talking about even you're solving issues in Playwright that you see you're using Perplexity. And is there any built-in things in Perplexity that they can utilize to analyze test cases or generate test cases? Or you can utilize AI to even further enhance whether it's analyzing test case, automating test case, running the test case, or analyzing the result. How do you guys integrate AI with Playwright? Do you guys do anything with that?
Yes, absolutely. In our Playwright course, we start to teach the AI since day one till the last day. So every step of the way, we integrate the AI into the curriculum. When it comes to Playwright, there are a couple parts that we can integrate the Perplexity to. So you see, Perplexity is AI that's focusing on everything. Perplexity AI is like math, chemistry, everything. But our students, as an automation engineer, you don't want the AI to focus on all those parts except for what you want. AI is too generic, that the focusing domain is too generic. What we teach the student is to reduce the focusing domain of AI to only focus on Playwright. And for the language, yes, you still have to make the AI to focus on Java or JavaScript, whatever language that you are using. So for that, we teach our students how to create Perplexity collection. Perplexity collection is similar concept with the custom GPT of OpenAI. So I know you have built lots of custom GPT for your own needs, right?
Yeah.
So do I. So what the benefit of using custom GPT is because you will have your own AI assistant or AI agent that focus on specific one domain. It is specialized in one area. So that way, whenever you use that AI agent, you don't have to be constantly prompting about which tool that you are using, which language that you are using,
so context.
How would you like to use it? Yeah. Like you can just directly give whatever you want right away. For example, how do I do this? That AI agent, it already is focusing on Playwright, JavaScript, all those languages. Then it will give you the answer right away. You will do less prompting, and then you will end up getting the exact same result that you are looking for. We teach students how to build custom GPTs. So those custom GPTs are actually your AI agents, specialized AI agent. We create one AI agent for locating the elements, XPath locator or CSS locator, because in automation testing, to interact with the web elements, you need to locate the element, you need to analyze HTML code, right? And then you need to write a unique XPath or CSS, etc. So instead of wasting time to get the HTML code from the page, looking at it and analyzing it and writing the XPath CSS, what we do is we specialize an AI agent. We give the system message, AI message those components. We give those instructions to the AI in its memory. Your task is this. You are specialized in this domain, etc. This language that you have to use, things like that. And then as soon as we just copy paste HTML from page to the AI agent, it will immediately give us the exact unique XPath or CSS that we needed in order to locate the element. That way, students, they do not need to waste any time of locating element. They can just let the AI to take care of the repetitive task. That's just one of the AI agents that our students are building in the Playwright course. Of course, we also have other AI agents as well. Each AI agent is specialized in one specific task. One is for locating elements, and another one is for optimizing the test cases that you have, manual test case that you have. And another AI agent is for generating the possible scripts that you can directly copy paste it and use it in your program.
So even I would say 80% of the job is done.
Yes.
Like 80% is done by AI. 20% is you're putting together some oversight, making sure you can integrate it. That means that it is even more efficient than ever because now you don't have to type the code one by one. That's crazy.
True. Yeah.
But when you're talking about this custom agent, I have this analogy. Imagine there's Super Jimmy, because the reason that he's Super Jimmy is like he's a lawyer, he's accountant, he's finance manager, and he's sales manager, he's strategy manager. So I go to Jimmy. If such a person exists, I think nobody would go to that person. If you look at how organic intelligence work, like versus artificial intelligence, is people, they're specialized. Lawyers specialize on law, CPAs specialize on finance, doctors specialize on doctors. But even within their domain, they have subdomains. You have divorce lawyer, you have insurance lawyer, you have accident lawyer, you have litigation lawyers. So now you have to further deep into that specific niche. I think humans work better in niche. If you want somebody super, super competent in one thing, you need to go for the niche. Then I realize AI is even working better in that way.
Absolutely.
If you make a general AI, the general thing, it doesn't have the context of what you're looking for. And that's why I think building agent for specific tasks will tremendously reduce the prompting time, context time, and also it will increase the result as well. Because sometimes, when you're fine tuning it, you have to go back and forth. Sometimes you get pissed off at ChatGPT. You're asking something, it gives you some stupid answers. Can you imagine now we're thinking ChatGPT is stupid? Like 2 years ago, we were so impressed with ChatGPT writing poem.
But now it's slowly outdated.
No, slowly we're like, ChatGPT is so dumb. I want to use Claude now. So anyway, when you build that specific niche, for example, one is for analyzing test case, one is analyzing the test result, one is
creating
creating an element, or you just dump the HTML, it gives you XPath, right? Used to be you have to read the code, whatever, you try something, it doesn't work. Even writing the code itself, I think building AI agents or specific tool from AI is something that everybody should look into it. Not even, you don't have to be automation person. You can have a finance manager, you can have a strategy manager, you can have a even home remedy doctor. So, hey, I have gut issues. What should I eat? So these are the things that just like unlimited possibility for people.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you can implement the AI to the programming, yes, you can implement the AI to anything,
Yeah.
If you know how to utilize AI for programming or automation testing, later on you can utilize AI for any repetitive tasks that you have in your daily life, for example.
Yeah, especially me with my broken English, I always have a grammar issue.
Yeah, I also have created a grammar agent,
I used to pay Grammarly a couple $100 a year. No, I don't use Grammarly anymore.
Yeah, I stopped paying for Grammarly as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's sad or not, but literally this company got killed by ChatGPT. Now I'm correcting my grammar.
Speaking of Grammarly, before, whenever I make some announcement message, etc., I wanted to make sure that the grammar, everything is correct. So I would use Grammarly. I would go to Grammarly website and paste it here. And when you go to Grammarly website, it has different pages. In the pages, it can help you to correct the grammar and everything. But of course, you have to have a subscription with Grammarly in order to be able to use it. Yeah. It's like $10 or something like that. But ever since AI came along, once I learned what custom GPT is, how beneficial it can be, I just created my own GPT for Grammarly. One GPT for Grammarly, another GPT for making speech, another GPT for locating element, this or that, etc. Java assistant, Python assistant, etc. So yeah, custom GPT is definitely going to be far more beneficial for you in the future.
I think we should do another podcast specifically for custom
GPT. Yeah. There are lots of things to talk about the custom GPT.
Yeah, it made my life much easier today.
Yeah, Grammarly is one of the basic example. You were able to save up like at least $10, right?
Yeah, it's like a couple $100 a year. If you're looking in our organization, we have lots of immigrants here, and most people have broken English. Now, if you pay as a corporate, you have to pay for all the employees.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking about thousands of dollars per year, tens of thousands of dollars saving literally by switching to AI. Sure. AI is such a great blessing.
It's a blessing, but only if you know how to use it, To be able to utilize it, it's not just something like you type it and get answers. Because when you give a prompt to the AI, by default, it gives you what you needed, along with suggestions, explanations, very long essay you will end up getting when you give a prompt to the ChatGPT, right? The regular ChatGPT. Yeah. But as an automation tester, for example, if you are looking for something, do you want the AI continue to give all those explanations, some long essays, or do you want the AI to give you that exact one piece of information only in the result?
So somebody had this funny video.
Yeah.
He was asking ChatGPT, hey, how is weather today? And ChatGPT is like, this is an excellent question. Checking weather is a great thing before you go outside. It could be raining, whatever. It's like, it doesn't give you the answer. It's like, start chatting with the guy. I was like, what is the weather? And it was like, where are you located? Yeah, sometimes you just want answer.
That's called the default pattern of AI. Each AI has its own default pattern. Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, they have their own default pattern. To understand that default pattern, you have to constantly prompt it. Yes, you have to use it every single day. And once you understand the default pattern, next time using it will be much more easier for you. And yes, understanding default pattern takes time. It requires you to use it every single day. Just like learning programming, you need to learn the AI prompting every single day as well. And to make it much more easier, once you understood the default pattern, to make it much more easier for you to prompt, you will learn how to create prompt template. Prompt template basically means saving a specific prompt. And every time when you call that prompt template, it will follow the instructions that has been saved. Similar to the function concept of programming, you store some codes in the function's body, and whenever you call that function, those codes get executed from top to bottom. So prompt template is similar concept. So utilizing AI is not just something that you give a prompt and get a response from AI. No, it has lots of meaning to it. You need to know how the system message works, AI message works, human message works, how you should configure the AI's response, how you want the AI behave, which area it is to focus. Lots of clarity and specificity are extremely important when it comes to prompting. So to be able to specify, configure those clarity, specificity, system message, AI message, those components, you have to use it every single day. Then you will be able to create one solid AI agent that is specialized in one task.
So now when we talk about AI agent and a Playwright, I want to go back to Playwright a little bit more. AI agents so competent or so good. Why companies are not just building a AI SDET agent and just automate all the process of Playwright? Playwright is automation tool. And now you're automation the process of automating it. So why not an AI is doing that job? If I'm SDET, right? Why would I trust AI if AI is taking over my job?
So here's the thing. AI, yes, it's pretty helpful. It's a simulation of human intelligence, but it does not have critical thinking. AI, that's number one. And another reason is AI will also make mistakes. Because think about it. Is there a difference between eating organic food and non-organic food? If you eat organic food, you're still more healthier, right?
Absolutely.
So for the AI, it's also the same. For example, we have created our AI agent and we deployed it as chatbot for the enrollment team. So when we were creating that AI agent, why did we use our own data instead of all the data that AI already has from the internet?
Because
what was the reason?
The answers were so cliche.
Yeah.
And no human being ever will talk to someone like that.
Yeah.
If I read that answer, I'm instantly know I'm talking to some sort of ChatGPT. Why would I do that? Number one. Number two, it was giving lots of error, mistake.
Hallucinations.
Exactly. Yeah. Customer can say something and they're just going to, oh yeah, I'm going to give you 80% discount. So it's going to make a lot of mistake. Number three, I think one of the most important thing we did during the training process for our chatbot is giving the context of the industry, of the program. So you have multiple contexts.
Yes.
You have the industry, which is tech education industry, and you have a specific company, which is CYDEO. Inside CYDEO, you have SDET program. So you have to narrow down the context so you know that the agent will know what we're talking about. So for that, we have to create lots of data.
Training data.
So providing specific context, I think we spend lots of effort on that. Second, humanizing it.
Yes.
I think
that was also
because ChatGPT is very cliche. And it was like, let's embark this journey. I was like, who the hell talks like that? So we fixed that issue as well. And the next one was a fine tuning. We will have to, we did lots of testing as well. And we asked some controversial question about literally.
In all those processes, we used our own data, right?
Exactly.
Because we didn't trust the data that are already been there on the internet.
Yeah.
So where do you think the training data of AI is coming from? The internet.
Yes, that's how they train ChatGPT, I guess. Like YouTube scripts, internet. They downloaded everything from internet.
For example, if you want to self-host a Llama, right now Llama is open source. When you download it, it also downloads 70 billion parameters to get with it from the internet, all the data that it's using is from the internet. On the internet, do you think all the data, everything is 100% correct and exactly what you needed?
If you think the internet has more truth than misinformation or good than bad, give your 7-year-old kid unlimited free access to the internet, see what happens. You can't. There's more misinformation.
Yes.
There's more wrong information in internet than the right one.
So that's why AI also constantly makes mistakes. It's not perfect. When AI makes mistake, in order to be able to identify the issue, to fix that mistake, catch that mistake, you have to have the knowledge of that domain as well. So if you are just using AI for automation, right? When AI makes mistake from the automation part, how are you going to correct it if you don't have automation knowledge yourself?
Absolutely. I talk about this. Assume there's an apocalyptic situation and you have CVS and somebody else's kid is sick and the father is looking for medicine.
Right.
And you just have to go there and get the medicine, but there's no doctors in there because it's like extreme circumstances. All the medicine are there free. Why don't you just take it and give it to your kid? So you have to have some medical knowledge. You have to have what kind of prescription that you need. Having the medicines, unlimited medicine, doesn't mean that you can just take it and give it to your kid unless you have medical knowledge. I feel like it's very similar with AI as well. Your domain knowledge, your understanding of programming, whether even if you're a lawyer, Jimmy cannot just go and just start prompting and become a lawyer. When the answer is coming out from ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, the law professional with the law background, the context can take a look and say, this is good or bad. This is for this specific circumstances. Even in order to utilize artificial intelligence, the domain knowledge, the context, the experience is extremely important. If you're SDET with AI, you're going to be better SDET. But if you are Jimmy with no SDET background, you cannot become SDET just because ChatGPT can write your code.
Exactly.
I think that's why it's still important to have.
Yes, it's really important to have the base knowledge, you know. Just because you have calculator, that doesn't mean that you don't need to know math.
I think that's
you
important.
Still need to know the math as well.
I think that's important, right? Sometimes people we don't have to learn code. It's fine if you don't want to learn.
That's the wrong mindset.
Yeah, but the thing is this, regardless, learning coding changed my life.
Oh, yeah.
Problem solving, critical thinking,
it teaches you how to think, basically.
It's like installing a super operating system in your mind. I'm always extremely efficient and strategic because I know how to write code versus people don't know how to code. Even in the tech industry, you have to learn code anymore because Copilot is writing code for you, telling an elementary school kids, hey, because you have a calculator, you don't have to learn math. That kid is going to grow up incompetent and dumb. He's going to go to 7-Eleven. How much? 7-Eleven. Like he's going to start counting his finger. So you have to learn math to be having a normal life in life. So even if you're in tech industry, having the context of how data works, how backend works, how front end works, how programming works, still I think is important because you're going to build, you're going to use AI to empower, amplify your current skill set. I think that is going to be the key for people to understand.
So just now you brought it up, Copilot. I would like to share one funny story about the Copilot, actually, GitHub Copilot. You know? So when Copilot was first released, there were lots of hype around it, right? Some people were even claiming that you don't need to learn programming because Copilot can do it for you. Now, in our course, we teach the alternative of Copilot called Tab9. But of course, before Tab9, we were also talking about Copilot and stuff. So in IntelliJ or in our IDE, whenever we try to set it up to Copilot, you have to install that plugin. When you look at that plugin, now it has like 2.7 stars out of 5, you know? So back then there were lots of hype around that, people claiming you just need Copilot, that's all, even if you don't know programming. But now people are angry with that tool because it was constantly making mistakes for the programmers.
No, if you look at it in today's environment, let's say this CrowdStrike Blackout. CrowdStrike deployed code one night. I think it was
made the update,
July 18, I believe.
Yeah, it was in July, definitely.
Yeah, July 18, half of the world stopped. Flights got canceled, thousands of flights. Thousands of malls, department stores, they couldn't process payment. They were asking for cash. Even hospitals, they canceled procedures. And CrowdStrike lost, $8 billion in market valuation. That is not counted with, for example, hospitals, those businesses, or airlines suing them because they lost lots of money. Sure. We're not talking about that.
Not only the money, they also lost the reputation. As well.
I think a few months ago, United Airlines updated their also system as well. And they were not able to issue boarding cards. Those one day.
That story.
That's what happened. Today I'm using Meta, for example, Facebook, Instagram. I see lots of issues as well.
Oh yeah.
I've never witnessed that much production issue before ChatGPT. I feel like one of the reason the quality of softwares or systems that we're using went down is because, come on, be honest. If you're a developer, would you really spend 8 hours to write code when Copilot can do 80% of your job? Literally, you're dumping code, copy-pasting and inserting. First of all, you're doing faster. Second, you heavily rely on AI. I think when you create more code, develop more functionalities in a faster speed and rely on AI, and developers are being lazy right now, I think it's going to introduce a lot of risk for software quality around the world. And we're started seeing it right now, just like a CrowdStrike situation. I believe there's going to be more because it's going to take time. This hidden bugs that developers copy pasted, somehow, somewhere it's going to come. I hope it would not cost people's life because even yesterday I had a guy from UK, he's in Cambridge, he's one of our alumni. And he was talking about his experience. He's working for one of the hardware company, very famous. I don't want to mention the name. And they're responsible for like Wi-Fi communication between the flight towers and the pilots. Now imagine if developers in that company start dumping the codes from ChatGPT. We're talking about people's life. So I think, though people think that AI is going to take over like coding, AI is going to make coding easier, but AI is going to have a negative impact on overall quality of software for the next few years, and it's coming.
QA will be needed more than ever.
Well, I would say it used to be it was like 7-to-3 ratio. You have 7 developers, 3 QA person.
Yeah. This time it's going to be more QA, less developer probably.
Because in AI, you can create unlimited functionality. You just dump it. But the thing is, do you feel confident enough to publish or deploy those code in production.
You cannot 100% trust the AI. I mean, after all, it's just getting data from internet all over the internet, and internet has lots of wrong information that, as you mentioned, and whenever there is something wrong that the GPT is giving you or etc., you have to be able to catch it, and so for that you definitely need testing more than developing when it comes to that.
I think that also comes back to, again, Playwright. So when you have more functionalities, the speed of your regression suite, how the test cases will be increased, it's going to be faster.
Right.
Because if you're a software development team, if you're equipping your team with Pilot, Copilot, or Tab9, developers, tech leads, they're going to say, hey, they're going to negotiate how long it's going to take for this. They're going to say 16 hours when they kind of do sprint planning. And I'm pretty sure the Scrum Master or tech lead will say, hey, you're using AI, so you can do this in 8 hours. I would say they're going to have to develop more functionality in less time.
Yes.
And that is going to be issue. Why? Because there's more test coverage needed for those functionalities. And plus, when developers rely on AI without lots of context, it's going to be another issue. Plus, AI learned coding from internet, so it's going to be another issue. Let's say AI downloaded all the codes from when they're training their coding competency. Probably it's from Stack Overflow and GitHub. And those codes are written by humans, and there's lots of mistakes in there too.
Yes.
So in the first place, when you're teaching your AI, it's already learning from the code that was potentially defect in there or bugs in there.
Yeah.
So you're learning from the wrong place, and now you're teaching from the wrong place, and you're generating from the wrong place. I think it's going to have lots of impact on software quality. Therefore, yes, I totally agree that in the future, they might need more software quality assurance people. Do you remember recently Chase Bank, they had his ATM
Oh yeah, I heard that.
check fraud. Check fraud was millions of dollars people were able to take from ATM by depositing check. I don't think that is a defect. I think it's a business logic issue, because you can build an application, but if the requirement doesn't mention that, if the user story doesn't mention that specific logic, if the logic itself is wrong, developers now, they're going to look at it, they're going to build on the wrong logic. So I think in the future, when automation, let's say Playwright, taking care of lots of repetitive work of automation, I think QA people should literally focus on business logic from the end user perspective. How do I make this application better? I say in this Chase Bank situation, it shouldn't happen in the first place. Yes, it happened. Yes, people took advantage of your system defect, but it shouldn't happen in the first place.
True.
If QA people didn't have time to think about this business logic, more things are going to happen. This time it's Chase Bank. I'm glad it's only money. But next time, it could be communication between flight tower and the pilot. It could be something else. It could be like MCAS. When you talk about Boeing 737 MAX, 359 people died. It was a software, MCAS software.
Yeah.
So I think now, actually, when AI taking over lots of repetitive work, people should focus on this out-of-the-box way of how do we make our software better, safer, more efficient for the end user. I think that's also an opportunity for QA people to focus on actual things that matter. If you're QA, do you want to spend 3 hours to write login functionality? What the hell is that? So focus on bigger pictures. So AI is good, actually.
Yeah. So you just be able to fully utilize AI to take care of the repetitive tasks, and you will focus on the critical parts, And also you have to have the domain knowledge as well, because when AI does the repetitive task, you also be able to monitor it to make sure that AI is behaving the way that you want it to. If not, yes, AI agents that you create, you also need it also needs testing, So for that, you still need your domain knowledge if you want to be able to utilize AI for Playwright. Yes, first you have to have Playwright domain knowledge in Playwright, then you can utilize it better.
Okay.
Just like if you know mathematics, then you can utilize calculator better, right? If you're not good at algebra at all, even if someone gives you a super calculator, do you know how to use it? If you don't know what is linear algebra or what is this, can you still utilize the super calculator? You can.
I think domain knowledge is still important. I think it's also, it becomes competitive advantage. Let's say there are students, they have accounting background, they have finance background, because AI is kind of making it easier to break into tech.
Yes.
Now, with their finance background, becoming a fintech professional is easier today.
True.
If you learn biology, now maybe you utilize your existing background of biology and learn tech, now you're biotech. I think AI is generally a good thing if you can utilize it.
Oh yeah.
If not,
it is.
It's like in the battlefield, your enemy have better equipments. It's just like you're destroyed. So you want to be equip yourself with those tools. Anyway, I think we had a great conversation about Playwright.
We did.
Thank you so much for teaching automation, Java, Selenium. Now you're teaching Playwright and AI. I'm pretty sure your students are grateful. They like you a lot when I post you, and always we get more views and likes.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it for that.
Thank you, Muhtar.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care.